Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the OK Grodnart Show. Today is Saturday, July 4th, 2020, 9:30 a.m. Central in beautiful Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. We're getting back to our DM Perspective Review series with a continuation of Conan the Adventurer animated series, Season 1, which we had 4 of prior to Harryhausen weekend. So we are on to episode 5. This one called Shadow Walkers, and written by a man who passed away just last year. Larry was a very busy writer. I never pronounce his name right. DiTilio, I believe. Larry DiTilio. He's a brother who's an actor also, who's still with us. But sadly, Larry passed away. He was probably best known for writing a lot of stuff for Beast Wars and Masters of the Universe. But he penned some Babylon 5 episodes and Hitchhiker, Hypernaut, She-Ra. We lost him just a year ago this last March at the age of 70. He'd been ill for quite some time, from everything I understand. Although he had a character created by credit for She-Ra and the Princess of Power in 2018. He did not have any writing credits beyond an episode of Transformers Animated that was written in 2009. So he had been inactive for almost a decade when he did pass. Even that 2009 episode was a bit of an outlier, since he hadn't been working regularly as a writer since 2004, 2005, I think. Masters of the Universe and Kong, the animated series. He wrote a few episodes for that. Also, he wrote 2 of these Conan the Adventurer episodes, the first being this one, the 5th of Season 1, called Shadow Walkers, and the last 13th of this inaugural season, Season 1, called 7 Against Stygia, which will have all of the cohorts, allies, the people who have been helping Conan along the way, and who he had met up with and gained the friendship of all through the beginning. First 12 episodes of Season 1 all come together to work together in the finale of the first season. He penned that episode as well. Sadly, I think this episode, even though Catherine Barr does voice work for it and has done just an incredible amount as a Canadian voiceover artist and actress. Not just voiceover work, but mainly voiceover work, and a ton of it. You look at her credit list and it's just so extensive. She does an Asian accent in this. There's a quasi Eastern Asian culture depicted. They have ninjas. And even though Robert E. Howard's Hyperboreal World is meant to be a pre-dawn of civilization, or an earlier world than exists, it really was a conglomeration of many cultures that were based loosely on various cultures throughout history of the world, some ancient, some medieval, some Renaissance even, some Dark Age as far as Europeans concerned. There are any number of Dark Ages, of course. Some Bronze Age, some Iron Age, some... There are all sorts of... It's a real mishmash of cultural appropriation on the part of Robert E. Howard to build this fantastical world. But, some would say that the point of that is to give the reader, for him, since he was writing written word, novels and short stories, to give a reader a way in, a way to connect through some familiarity with the cultural touchstones that are being used within the writing. So too, one would make the argument that existed and continues to exist in animated shows that are meant to be fantastical, whether it's Conan or the D&D animated series, certainly any number of science fiction efforts, anime, manga, superheroes, all of them, even the ones that are meant to be set in a contemporary, actual, real-world setting, but for the addition of a superhero, are not a real world. They're a fictional world. So anything you depict within that fictional world is not necessarily meant to reflect specific examples in the real world. So it's hard to say what's fair game if in the eye of the reader they're going to assume some intent on the part of the author, whether that's the actual intent or just a byproduct of some sort of subconscious addition, or completely the opposite of what the author was intending. One could say that's the fault of the author because of how they presented the material, but we could be all over the place, right? Twitch being funny this morning, Death Angel Shadow says in the chat. Thanks for showing up, Ink Dweller 8. Good morning to you. Red Barn Games 2. Happy 4th of July. Happy Independence Day to anyone here in the States that celebrates it. The soapbox I should set aside now. We're getting too far in here without actually getting to the actual material, but I've said what I've said. Let's have a look at, get the sound down. Let's check out the the episode. Pop that up there. So it starts off with our buddies Grey Wolf and Conan visiting a place for food and entertainment where there is a dancer who then is carried off by a couple of what appear to be ninjas. And as Conan gives chase, because he is quoted as saying he likes her eyes, he is also grabbed up by these ninjas, and then we cut to the opening credits, where Conan bravely does all sorts of things A few of his allies are depicted, such as Zula there and Jessamine, neither of whom is in this episode, by the way. His father, mother, and grandfather on the left are turned to living stone by Rathaman, who also voices Grey Wolf and Night Shadow in this episode. And we get to see some of their first meeting when they fought, and him riding around on his steed Thunder, the flying around Needle, who is a phoenix that lives inside his shield, Shadow Walkers, Larry DiTilio. And Doug Parker, also a voiceover artist working on this, with several voices, including the Kari Dragon, Windfang, two of the monster creatures we'll see later, as well as the Overlord, who is the evil villain who runs these ninjas. And man, is Conan having trouble with the fighting style he's up against here. They just keep tossing him. Grey Wolf shows up, uses one of his whirlwinds to take out one of the ninjas, toss him up in a tree, before he is caught up in a chain. Fortunately, his two wolf companions help him out. Conan recovers, smacks a couple of heads together, and the two of them have a bit of a chuckle, because they need to overcompensate whenever they are losing a fight. Yes, the Star Metal Sword. It's a interesting convention. Oh, there's our unfortunately named female ingenue Swallow, as voiced by Kathleen Barr. However, she's not so easily thwarted. She decides, she tosses a little sleepy time gas ball and then has them all carried off to the throne room of, I'm not sure if it's actually her father here. In any event, they return his Star Metal Sword, probably eliciting some trust, because they have a mission they'd like him to take up, being a renowned hero. She tells of a tale. And there's a good DM, if you want somebody to trust you, knock them out, let them awake, give them back their stuff. So that is Windfang, a four-armed flying creature that had stolen a box that was being transported from one clan to another as a gift, and sadly, this particular clan chief does not appreciate their failure when they admit to it, and explains to them, well, if you're going to fail, then you probably actually stole it. You didn't lose it. So they don't believe Swallow and her clan. So they're enlisting these outsiders to come in and fulfill the mission of retrieving the Kari Dragon, a statuette which supposedly can summon forth a dragon creature and also should have the ability to control that dragon. So it's a twofold sort of thing. Well, you know, as much as they love believing that Conan will be their savior, they're not without reservations about the fact that they were all able to beat him up in that alley. So we get into a little training montage here. Starting off with, of course, the older, wiser warrior who says the Yoda-like lines of, don't just discount someone for being older or being smaller, and then proceeds to toss Conan into a big pile of baskets, because when you help him back up out of that pile of baskets, you'll want to be able to show him how you can put him in an arm lock and shame him into accepting the training that you will then provide. Technical issues. Are you having technical issues, Ink Dweller, with Twitch or with your own home system? Twitch seems to be working fine, although the delay seems a little long today. Nevertheless, here comes the training montage. Toss him down into the mud when he gets knocked off of the jumping around on top of the logs. Somebody else was complaining about Twitch last night in another stream I was watching. And then yesterday afternoon I noticed somebody mentioned that Twitch had been doing something lately where they had been bouncing people off of follow lists just kind of randomly. So I haven't lost any followers as far as I can tell, so I'm not sure about that. But I will also say that, if it happens, it happens. People can just refollow. I've got a kind of a handle on who's been following anyway. So now that he's completed some of his training, his buddy Grey Wolf wants to borrow Needle and take off on a separate mission. Of course, he's got that really cool cloak / flying carpet that he can imbue with magic by using his rod. And once that's up and flying, he can go pretty much anywhere. Now that he's got the magical Needle with him, who has an ability to dig into his own memory for legendary information. Conan capping some Z's because he's exhausted. Good looking place to go to here. High up in the city. He's going after the scroll that has those 2 spells on it, because you can't just summon the dragon and then cast the other one and control the dragon without actually having the proper wordage. And that's a good DM tip too, is don't just have everything nice and easy here. You got this artifact and you can just utilize it. Maybe have the words of power that make it work separate from the artifact itself. It wasn't showing live until 9:40. Interesting. Well, I don't know. It's got me down as having been running for 19 minutes as this moment passes. I did have a bad start, and I had to restart once early on, but that was on me. It wasn't a Twitch thing. There's the before and after commercial. Of course, they're really good at throwing people around, but they're lousy archers. Can't even hit a bird who will run itself right into a tree. Same sort of issue for you. Okay. Well, I did not really have a problem here, except one of my own making. So I had to restart after a false start, and it looks like it's up and running. Maybe the restart threw it off. That could be. Maybe my stutter start is what informed you that you were having problems, or making you feel like you were having problems. So we'll see. I'll check out the recording when I'm done and make sure. So now Conan goes back for his next day of training. He was exhausted, had to really hit the hay there. And he's learning some more, and he's actually making it through their obstacle courses. In the meantime, it would appear that Grey Wolf has been successful. It really looks like the lag on these things is crazy. Yeah, now I see what you mean on the video. It's jumping all around. I'm not sure if it is just on you guys. Maybe it is on this end too. But I'm going to stick with it. Rathamon's watching over what's going on. If the recording is working correctly and my review narrative that's going over top of it is synced up right despite what's showing in Twitch, I'll be happy. Fortunately, what I'm doing actually kind of bypasses Twitch, even though it streams on Twitch. The recording itself is made through the OPS software I use to do the streaming. So even if there is a delay, then what we'll see, or what I'll see in the recording, should be fine. But I'll figure that out. I'll figure that out in a little while. So now Conan's all trained. Grey Wolf has the magical words needed to deal with the Kari Dragon statuette. He's brought along a little potion of sleeping that he got from his pal Swallow, and so they infiltrate. Grey Wolf once again using the flying carpet. His wolves joining him on it. But Conan in disguise. And here's the thing. Don't be afraid to give the players an opportunity to utilize the opportunity to utilize disguises, even if they aren't they themselves some sort of stealthy individuals. Recalling his training, the easy way in is probably the most dangerous. He will not be fooled. He will go through a wall, and good on him, because this elderly woman was actually the lead ninja in disguise. They, of course, all standing on top of logs, so it's meant to evoke some of the training that he got. Needle, still a fool for the pomegranates. This is the in and outro from commercial breaks. But here we are with Conan in a room. There's a neat series of rooms that he has to travel through, explore as he searches for the Jade Dragon. Jade Dragon? The Kari Dragon, I guess it's called. And it's not surprising that each room is set up as an obstacle, as with either a physical trap or a encounter, or both. Now Grey Wolf up atop runs across the creature, four-armed flying lizard man creature with a breath weapon that stole the artifact originally. Grey Wolf essentially holding off this monster so that Conan can effectively search and find the object they're looking for. Their hope, according to their plan, to find the object and use it to help them fight this creature. The wolves doing their part, keeping him busy so that Grey Wolf can climb up from his precarious position hanging over the side of a tower. Needle being brought in. Uh-oh. Watch out, ninjas behind you. Use the shadows. There's a DM tip. If someone's being snuck up on and you determine as a DM that they are not surprised, you don't have to have them spin around and see something full force. You can have them get clued into it using not just sound but also shadows. So roll a wisdom check. I rolled a 20, or I rolled a 1. My wisdom's 12. That's an extremely good roll. So you're trying to roll your wisdom or below in first edition, which I run most of the time. Little secret panel accidentally discovered by Needle, and he finds the box they're looking for. So that wisdom check, how does that manifest? That's up to you. You could say you hear a noise behind you when you turn your head and see blah, blah, blah. Don't forget the star metal doesn't actually have to slaughter these things and bring bloodshed into this classic children's cartoon, because all it really needs to do is come close to one of those disguised as human snake people. Ophidians, is that the word we're looking for? And if it comes close to them, it sends them off into the other dimension. Well, you know, it's a puzzle box, but Conan, not much for puzzles, will just smash it to get the dragon out from inside. Yeah, Needle is incredibly lucky, of course, by design. Aha! And now, even though Grey Wolf was the one who went to all that trouble to go get the magic spells with the magic words that make this thing work, he made the mistake of telling them to Conan, who now fumbles through them and manages to turn this little statuette, this figurine of wondrous power, as we call it in first edition D&D, of a dragon into, boom, full-size dragon. Uh-oh. Yeah, it's easy enough to steal that thing when he's in a little box as a statuette. It's another thing to think your measly breath weapon is going to work against a full-size dragon, Mr. Windfang. Kari Dragon having none of that. But of course, the control spell, is it time to implement that? Because here comes Dragon back now that it doesn't have to deal with Windfang. Well, no. We're going to learn a little lesson here. And this is something, DM tip, you don't have to have just one way of dealing with situations. Player comes up with this great idea. You know what? I'm just going to tell the dragon he's free. I don't want to control him. I don't want to dig through, find the words that control him. I'm just going to set him free. What do you think of that? Well, let me roll. You know, this dragon who's been ordered around, much like the genie in one of those Sinbad movies we watched last weekend. Set him free. Let him loose. Nice little contemporary metaphor there, right? You don't, what's the saying? If you love something, set it free if it comes back to you. Then it loved you too. I don't know. I forget how it goes. Anyway, they bring back the actual object. I had thought that disappeared when they conjured the dragon, but apparently it is separate, and the dragon was inside of it, trapped inside of it, like a genie in a bottle. And now he gets his thanks. They laugh off the fact that he's a clumsy barbarian. They're going to do one last commercial before they come back and go straight to the credits. Fascinating. Some pretty good stuff. Some good combats, some good traps, some interesting, definitely some excellent setting bits here. So very happy with that. And we got to say, all in all, another good episode. A lot of stuff you can port over to your games. So, quick reminder, we are still working away at the old school zine. More on that, I think, on Monday, as we share some of what we've been doing at that point. That's going pretty well. Got the schedule. Tomorrow, rules retrospective. It'll be a surprise to me and to you, because I still haven't decided exactly what I'm going to do on Sunday. We've got a clean slate and nothing in particular scheduled. Maybe I'll just roll a random die and go to a random page in the DMG and find something on there that could use some further explanation or that has been considered complex, and dig into it a little bit. We've got Monday weekly news and giveaway, Tuesday cartography and world building, campaign discussion on Wednesday, focusing mainly on my own Grimwald campaign setting. We've got crafting and painting on Thursday. We'll get back to the CSP June challenge that we took up a little late once we got past Harryhausen Day. We've got some textures to paste down onto some. We're going to use foam board, by the way, rather than just cardboard, so that'll be a little different and worth maybe checking out. Back to building adventures of a virtual tabletop type next Friday, and then we'll catch episode 6 of the Conan the Adventurer, the animated cartoon series, next Saturday. Right? Was zine. We got our schedule, and we will close it down by saying thank you to everybody who follows the channel. I appreciate it greatly, and thanks for jumping into the stream chat. Sorry if anybody was having some problems. Sorry we got a little bit of a late start. I might have thrown some people off. I know I'm usually pretty close on time most of the time, and I got in here a couple minutes after, had a couple of little technical issues, and then finally got going. So we got a bit of a late start. 33 minutes in now, and it's 10:11. So yeah, it was right around 22. But thank you very much. Thanks for following. Thanks for chiming in on the chat. If you're on YouTube following this, watching it, please do subscribe. And also give us a thumbs up. Maybe make a comment. Help us get a little better. I appreciate it. Appreciate everybody. Have a happy and safe holiday if you're here in the U.S. If you're anywhere else in the world, just enjoy the day. Take care. Bye-bye.